Okay, I'm going to take you through a series of steps to create a website using the tools and the techniques and from the authoring portion of authoring chapter, authoring videos from lynda.com. I'm going to try to go fairly quickly since we're going to do a full site here in a video. I might break it up. I'll let you know. Okay, so first of all, before we get started, and this is always good practice, I recommend that you go to the desktop or wherever you want to save your work and create a new site folder. And so our site folder is going to be called Authoring. And I know that I'm going to want to organize my images inside this folder, so I'm going to open that up and open up in my other screen. Let me bring it on here. And inside this one, I'm going to create a folder called Images. Alright, let's just do that much to start out with. And then inside Dreamweaver, we always start by defining the site. I like to go into the Files panel and click Manage Sites. From here, you can click New Site. It'll ask you what your site is going to be called. So our assignment here is to create a website based on a fictional character. I'm going to do mine on the Batman. And right here, I just need to navigate to my site folder. So we called it Authoring right there. We'll select it and save. Oh wait, before I leave this, what I do want to do is go into Advanced Settings and set my default images folder. So I'm going to browse that to this images folder. Okay, and save and done. Okay, so now I've got my site folder set up, and there is the internal images folder. Okay, real quickly, I'm going to collect some artifacts here for use in the site. So I'm going to pop over to Chrome, and let's do this. I'm going to just, in Google here, I'm going to search for a Batman banner. You can see I've been here before. I'm going to search for a Batman banner and click on Images. And so many people have done so much fan art. There's all sorts of things out there. You don't necessarily have to recreate the wheel every time. I like this one, so I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to click on it again to, ooh, it's not quite what I wanted to do. I'm going to go here and view image. And then, sorry for the rest of the images on the page here. And I'm going to save image as, and I'm going to make sure I'm saving it into my images folder. Save. Okay, while I'm here, I'm going to copy this URL, and because I want to give credit to this source later on. I like to just use Notepad++ just as a kind of a scrapbook to hold things. So I'm just going to put that there for later use. Alright, now going back to Dreamweaver. If I click on this images, now I can see that that image I just saved is in there. Okay. Oh, going back to Chrome. I'm going to use Wikipedia as my source of information. Of course, if you were creating a commercial website, you would never do this. This is specifically for educational use, educational fair use, right? And even still, just like if you were writing a research paper, you always cite your source. So a couple things I'm going to do while I'm on the Batman page here at Wikipedia. I'm going to click on this image and right-click on it and save image as. So this is again into my images folder. Okay, and then I do want to get the URL, but I'm going to back up to the page it came off of, this page, and I'm going to copy this URL, and then just off screen I'm adding this to that same Notepad folder. Okay, let's see. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and grab this text. I'll just do this much of the text before it jumps into any subcategories. So I just copied this, and once again I'm going to put it into Notepad. And one benefit of putting this into Notepad is that Notepad is plain text, and so it's going to strip off all of these links. All these links won't survive getting pasted into Notepad, and that's going to clean up the text a little bit. Okay, so there it is. Okay, now we've got things saved away. Let's go ahead and jump into Dreamweaver. So in Dreamweaver here, I want to create a new page. So I'm just going to say new, and it gives us these options. And what I want to do is new HTML. I'm not doing Bootstrap right now. That's a later lesson. And again, don't use these templates. You're learning to use Dreamweaver. You're learning to design pages. Templates are shortcuts. We don't want shortcuts. That doesn't help us learn. So I'm going to go to document type HTML. We want type HTML5. And right now I'm just going to do title the Batman and create. Okay, so a new clean blank page to work in. And I'm going to turn right around immediately and save as index.html. And I am inside the proper site folder, but to be sure, I can always click site root. If I've defined the site, that's always going to take me to the root folder of the site, and then save. And so over here I can see index.html. All right, so I'm going to build a, what do they call it? A wireframe, which is basically just the building blocks of the page. I wish I had drawn it out to show you, but basically I'm gonna put in a header that's a banner. I'm gonna put in a navigation that's a vertical navigation bar. I'm sorry, horizontal navigation bar underneath the banner, and then I'm gonna have a large window for the main content, and then I'm gonna have a footer at the bottom. So real simple layout. Okay. Now I don't know if you caught this on the lynda.com video, but they used this incredible thing called Emmet to create the structure of the page in a hurry. And I'm really bad at it, but I'm going to try it because I think it's cool. So basically what happens here is down here on the page, instead of putting in your HTML, you can put in this Emmet code and it'll expand to HTML. So I'm going to start with a header. No, I'm not. I'm going to start with a div of type wrapper. And then within the div, so it's a child, I'm going to do header. And then sibling to the header, I'm going to do nav. And then inside the nav, I'm going to do, just trying to think of what it's going to be. I think it's going to be just a paragraph. Okay. And then I'm going to go back up one level. Okay, so that up arrow. And parallel to header and nav, I want to do, I guess I just do it here. I want to do main and then footer. Okay, so if I've done this correctly, if I hit tab, it should expand. Bang. Oh, that is so cool. So here's my div wrapper, opening and closing tag. Here's my header, opening and closing tag. Here's nav, opening and closing tag with a P inside it. And then here's main, opening and closing tag, and footer, opening and closing tag. So I've got my page structure all done for me. There's my wireframe. Done. Awesome. Okay, so let's see. I guess we'll just go from top to bottom here and build out the page. So starting with wrapper, I'm going to go up here to my CSS designer. And you know what I'm going to try to do? I love working in code, but what I'm going to try to do is pop over here to live view so I'm not seeing the code, which is kind of scary for me. And I'm going to add a CSS source. And according to this assignment, you're supposed to do an external CSS. So I'm going to create a new CSS file. And I'm just going to call it CSS because I'm boring, and say OK. Okay. And then within the CSS external style sheet, which now shows up right here as well, I'm going to click add selector, and it defaulted here, or it suggested that I do one called wrapper, which is exactly what I want. And so I'm going to hit enter, and then within my wrapper, I'm going to create something that is width. Let's do what, 90%? And then I want to do margin auto to center it on the page. Okay, and that doesn't make any sense until I do a few things like background color. We'll do the background color as white, and then what we really need to do is a different selector. This one is body, and is it taking it? There it goes. And then the body is going to be background color So now I should be able to see my wrapper within my background, but I don't because there's no content in it yet. So right here, I'm inside div wrapper. You can see that from my Chrome. So if I start typing something, no, it's not going to do it. All right, I got to look at the code. All right, so I'm going to run down here and let's see, inside my, I just want something to show up on the page. Maybe inside main, oh, maybe inside header. We'll just throw some content in there. And now, just that placeholder content is showing me here's the width of my wrapper that's containing my header, which is containing this text. All right, little cheap, but there it is. Okay, so now, as long as we've clicked on header, let's go ahead and put in a new selector for header. It defaults to wrapper header, but since header is already, I'm only going to use one header in this document. I don't really need the context of the ID wrapper. So in this header, I can give it some properties. Let's give it height, maybe 120 pixels. Bang. So now we've got a little bit more room to work with, and I can get rid of this placeholder text for the time being. And what I really want to do with this header is I want to put that Batman banner in it. So I'm gonna add a property, and this property is going to be background image, and then it's going to be URL. Not giving me any code hints here. URL. What was this thing called? Let's see. Under files, under images, it was called Somber Batman. So I'm just going to highlight and copy this file name. So in CSS Designer, I can put it in here. Normally I'd insert, but since it's a background image, it's not playing so nice. Okay, let's see what happens there. Anything? No, you don't want to play nice? Alright, I'm not sure what happened there. Let me save this. I'm going to close it. I find that even though you're not supposed to have to do this, I find that sometimes closing the file and reopening it helps a bit. But in this case, it did not. So something is wrong with this value. Let's pop over to the CSS and look at it. It does not like this. Why not? Why not? Okay, I'm not seeing it off the top of my head, and that's okay, that happens. So let's consult the Oracle here. W3 schools, and we'll just do background image. Alright, so URL, I don't see a problem with it. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, the problem is this. This URL I put in here, I put it at the same level as the index.html file. But if you look at my files, that's not where it is. It's inside the images folder. So I actually have to put images, and there's the Batman. Okay, cool. All right, so it looks like the banner image is not white enough. It's repeating. So I want to make sure I deal with that. So let me go back to live view, and in CSS Designer under header, I've got my background image. Let's do background repeat, no repeat. Okay, so now I no longer have that. And you know what? It occurs to me that in my assignment here, I'm supposed to take a screenshot of working in live view and also working in code view. So since I'm working in live view right now, let's go ahead and grab, should be under Windows Accessories, you'll see the snipping tool, and you can just take a snip of you working in live view. You don't have to do you could do the whole page or not the whole page, it doesn't matter to me. but I'm just going to save this as live, in my case .png, unless you want to save it as a different file name. And I'll just put this on my desktop. It's just showing you that this is what you would do if you're going to turn this in later, right? Okay, so we'll close that. All right, back to what we were doing. Under header, we can do the position, right? So we want to do background position, and I want it to be moved over to the right side. So I'm going to do right, and I want to make sure it's on the top, so it's lined up in the upper right corner, and so that'll move it to the upper right corner. Perfect. All right, now I'd like it kind of to meld into the background, so I want to get rid of that white, and so that means that my background color for my header should be black. All right, perfect. So now it kind of melts into the page. Okay, so now I want to put in some text. So I'm going to go to split view, and you know what? I'll just go to code view, and that way I can take a snip of me working in code view. Ta-da! All right, and then getting back to it here, in code view, under source code, not CSS, right here for my header, I'm going to put in an H1 that's just the Batman. Okay, so there it is, and then going back to split view, so there's my text. It's tiny, tiny up here, and so I want to make some changes to actually a new selector, and this one's going to be header H1. And in this header, I want to use the font family. I like Arial Black, and I want to make the text itself white because it's on this black background, and I like to make it larger. So we'll do font size. Let's see, maybe I want to make it pretty big, maybe 56 pixels. Yeah, that's cool. I'd like to move it down a little bit, so we'll do some padding top, maybe 20 pixels. Maybe a little less. Okay, that looks good. Also, a lot of times when you're working with black and white, it might help to give it a little shadow, because that can give you some definition where white might start to melt into grays and light grays in the background. So I think shadow is always good at this point. So let's do text, not test, text shadow. And with text shadow, the first thing it wants to know is how offset to the right do we want to go? We'll go 5 pixels. And then how offset down do we want to go? 5 pixels. And then this is an optional thing. You can tell it how many pixels to take to gradate into that shadow. So I'll start with 5 pixels there as well. And then I want the shadow itself to be black. And so you see this shadow around it. I like that a lot. I think that came out great on the first try. So that's excellent. Okay, so oh, that's body. Okay, so for header, there we go. Yeah, I'm liking that. Oh, I don't like that it's right on top of that. So let's give it some padding on the left. Maybe 20 pixels. Yeah. Cool. All right. All right, now we can move on to the next bit, which is the navigation. So what I'm going to want, this is going to be a 3-page site, so I'm going to want links to page 1, page 2, and page 3. And so what I can do is pop in right here, and we'll do an anchor tag. You know what? I'm trying to get better about using the GUI tools instead of the code tools, so I'm going to say insert, and we'll say insert hyperlink, and the text will be the Batman, and in this case I'm actually going to link to this file, because this is going to be the home file, right? And yeah, just say OK. All right. And then my second link, inside, it's going to be, I want them to be horizontally aligned. So inside the same paragraph, I'm going to insert another link. And this one is going to be the sidekick. And I haven't created the file yet, but the file is going to be called robin.html. What have I done? Somehow there, I overrid one with the other. Let me try that again. Okay, so for whatever reason, it is changing this for me, which is not what I want at all. So I'm going to revert to my old ways and just type it in. And I'm sure it's no problem with the program. I'm sure it's just me not being comfortable with the GUI tools, but that's okay. I don't need to deal with that on your time. Okay, and then my last page, you know what? This might be a good place to use a snip. Let's say I know I'm going to want to use a hyperlink. Let's look at snippets and see if there's already a snippet for creating a hyperlink. Probably not, because that would just be like an insert, right? So this is overkill for what I need it for, but let's say that we took this and we right-clicked on it and we said create a new snippet. And this snippet was going to be called Batman nav link. Right, and we say OK to that. Now Batman nav link shows up right here. Oh, by the way, it looks like I'm using snippets. Therefore, let's take a screenshot, because that's one of the requirements, right? Here's my snipping tool, new, just take the whole page. If you don't want to take the whole page, that's okay. Just make sure you get the part that's relevant. Oops, apparently I didn't save that. So this one is snippet.png. All right. So yeah, so now that I've created a snippet, now if I go to the next line, I can right-click on that snippet and say Insert. And there it is again. And then I can just change out this part to Joker, and we'll call it Arch Enemy. Cool. Okay, now on this bar, what I actually want is for it to be, I actually want this to be kind of spaced out. So a couple things I can do. I'm going to put this snippet bar away here. And under my CSS designer, let's see, I'll create a new selector. On this one, look at that, nav PA. So it knows that it's in the navigation. It's P for paragraph, and then A for link, for anchor, which is a hyperlink. So I think I'm actually going to back up and just do nav P to begin with. And so for nav P, I'll give it a property. We'll do text align center, so it's in the middle. And like I did before, I'm going to do font family, and I'll do Arial black, which I like a lot. And I don't want it to be underlined. So you know what? That would actually be for the link itself. So text-wise, this is what I want, but I'm a little concerned with the spacing. No, that might be the nav box. Yeah, I'm a little concerned with the spacing. I'm going to do maybe padding top 0 pixels. See if that makes any. Oops. See if that makes any difference. And it doesn't. Okay, I'm just being a little bit concerned about this space, but this is not the tag where I need to worry about that apparently. Okay, so I would like to space these out a little bit, and so I'm going to insert a non-breaking space. Insert, and if I scroll down this list far enough, it should be in here. Here it is, non-breaking space. And I'm actually going to do a bunch of those. 3, 4, 5. Maybe over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And see, I'm just spacing these out a little bit. Maybe a few more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. I'm just putting space in between the links. All right, let's go back to CSS Designer and let's get a handle on this nav. It's a little unruly just now. So selector, no, not property, selector. This one's just going to be nav. And so on this nav, I'd like to have, I think I'd like to have, like, I want the text within it to be centered within it. Maybe I'll specify a height. So maybe, let's see what happens with 20 pixels. Okay, it's taking it off the bottom. Let's do padding top 0 and see if that helps. It did not. Let's. I'm wondering. Let's increase the margin and see if I can separate it from the header. So the margin on the top, let's do 20 pixels. Okay, so now I understand what's happening. What I'm seeing is the wrapper underneath showing through. So I'm worrying about this white space, thinking it's associated with the nav, and it's not associated with the nav. It's from the stuff above. All right, so that tells me I can get rid of this, and I can get rid of this. And what I really need to do is we'll give the nav a background color of white, and then I'm going to go back to my wrapper, and I'm going to change this background color to black. Oh, rats. Got out of hand there. I must have hit something. Alright, my machine's frozen here for a sec. Usually you can wait that out. Okay. So what I was trying to do was under nav, not nav, wrapper, trying to set the background color to black, which is actually, I just want to type in black. There we go. And now I've got some separation here. And then on my nav, I think I can get rid of this height and just let the height be set by its contents, and that does look good. Good. I was also thinking I don't dislike rounded corners. Let's do that. So on nav, let's do border radius, maybe 15 pixels. Yeah. And then I'd want to do it to the header as well. Okay. You can't see it very well in the header, but there's a little bit of an angle on there, and now there's a little bit of an angle on there. Okay, cool. So far so good. Now let's go ahead and take a minute and do our states for our nav, right? So here's our nav, and then what we're going to do is add a selector for nav A, link, and for that one, I'd like there to be no text decoration. I don't like the underline on the links. So text decoration, none. Okay, and then I do want the color to be black. Okay, so that's fine. It doesn't show black because it looks like they're visited links. So we got to deal with that in a different state. But you know, I could have done the font family here as well. I think I did it in the nav or the nav P. I really probably should have done it here in the link, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything, so I'm going to leave it alone. All right, so now I'm going to create a new selector, and this is going to be our nav a colon visited. And for visited, again, I want color to be black. If you want a different color for visited, that's fine. Personally, I prefer to keep it black. I don't need to see where I've been. It's fine. Just my preference. All right, and then I'm going to create a new selector, and this one's going to be nav a colon hover. And this time, what should we do? Okay, had a little glitch there. I think everything's fine now. All right, so hover. Let's go ahead and put in a maybe a different color. I'm just thinking like maybe a light gray. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Yeah, a little lighter than I would love. Let's put in just a gray. Yeah, that works. So you can tell that it's a link when you hover over it. That's kind of the point I'm going for there. All right, so let's save all, and then continue on here. Let's go to our main. Okay, so we want to treat the main a little bit like we did some of the other pieces, right? So we're going to add a selector. The selector is going to be called main. And then within this main, we'll add a property. And we know we want the background color to be white. And we know that we want the corners border radius to be, what was it, 15 pixels? And we know that we want we know that we want the margin, the top margin, to be, I think it was 20 pixels, to pull it down away from the navigation a little bit. Okay. So we're going to put some text in here, so it's probably a good idea if we put in some padding. Maybe let's start with 10 pixels, see how that goes. All right. So now we can see, you know, this is the beginnings of where our content will go. How much was our margin top? I feel like our margin top is too much compared to the one above it. Let's look at the nav. The nav, let's see. The nav didn't have any margin. So how is it set away from the header like that? How about our header? It also didn't have any margin. That's curious. How did this, I'm going to go ahead and set on the header, I'm going to go ahead and set margin top to 20 pixels. Just for, oh, I got to put in pixels. Okay, just for consistency. Okay. All right. Anyway, here within our main, did we get our padding? We got our padding. Okay. So I think we're good. Let's go ahead and put in some content. I'm going to put my cursor down here in the main section. And we know we want the image. So we're going to go to Insert, scroll up to image, and here's that Batman picture. So there he is, looking good. And let's go ahead and give him a rounded corner too. So we'll add a selector. We don't really need the wrapper portion of this, but main image, and we'll do our border radius of 15 pixels around the corners there. And let's go ahead and give it a border. Click appropriately here. Border 1 pixel solid black. That looks good. And then we're going to want the text to wrap around it, so we'll float this to the left. And we will, well, that's interesting, kind of collapsed everything else around it. We will, what else are we going to do here? We're going to give it a margin on the right side, maybe about 10 pixels, so the text doesn't sit right on top of it. Okay. And also notice that when it brought this image in, it put in this code. Now, I don't really need the width and height here, because that's the native width and height of the image. It doesn't hurt to leave it in there. Sometimes I take it out because I want to control the width and the height using styles, but in this case, well, in all cases, the styles would overwrite it. So I'm not so much worried about that. I'll just leave it alone. But I do want to put it in my alt tag. You always want to have alt tags. So here we'll say the Batman swing. It looks like he's swinging from Gotham rooftops. Okay. All right. Now for the text. So our text, if you recall, we popped over here into this notepad document. So I'm going to go back and copy it. And then I'll make sure my cursor's in the right place. And I'm just going to paste it right into the code there. All right. So all of my text just went in here. But even though I have these spaces between paragraphs, that's not HTML, right? So HTML is not recognizing them as separate paragraphs. So I'm going to hit enter, and now is a good time to use the quick tag editor. So if I triple click this paragraph and hit Control T, there's the quick tag editor. And since I'm using it, let's take a snip. Of course, as soon as I hit that, it disappeared, right? So can I get it back? No, of course not. Oh well. Anyway, I'll leave it to you to figure that part out, how to get a snip of the quick tag editor in action. If you can't, don't worry about it. But anyway, here's the second paragraph. Once again, Control T for quick tag editor, P for paragraph. So notice it says wrap tag, so it's going to wrap the paragraph tag around the paragraph. And then I just hit enter a couple of times. So triple click to select the paragraph, Control T, P for paragraph, enter, enter. And this is just turning these chunks of text into actual paragraphs. All right. Okay, now I like all this. Let's get this out of here. Oh, main tag. All right. Just being distracted. This P somehow went outside the main tag, and that's not okay. So let's make sure it gets where it's supposed to be. There we go. Okay, now I don't love the font. I don't love this type. So I'm just going to go to body. Every place else where I used Arial Black, I specified Arial Black. So if I just change the body text, it should change everything else. So we'll do font family. Maybe we'll do Calibri. And let's do sans serif just in case. Is it sans or sans? I can never remember. It's sans serif. Just in case the user computer doesn't have Calibri, it'll use whatever sans serif font they have. Okay, and I like that. Okay, that's fine. All right, so our page is showing up pretty good here. Let's put in our footer. And so the important thing about our footer, two things. One thing is we need our disclaimer, right? So I'm going to go to Canvas, and it looks like I didn't put the disclaimer in this assignment. So I'll go back under Modules to our previous assignment, maybe this one. And there it is. Just going to copy this boilerplate text for our disclaimer. I'm going to put it right here in the footer. I don't really want it in a paragraph. I'm just going to let it float. And then we'll put a BR to get onto a new line, page break. Not page break, line break. And what I want to do here is I want to be sure to cite my sources. So off screen, I'm just copying this URL. And I want to put a comment in here, something to the effect of Batman, what do you call it, banner image from, and I'm not making it a link, I'm just putting the URL in there. And then our Wikipedia one, we're just gonna copy this one, and that's the same URL we used for the Batman image and article text. I'll just pop that in there like that. Okay. Oh, and I should put a BR in here as well. Okay. So we just need to do a couple of alterations to our footer tag. So we haven't even used one yet. So we'll put in a selector for footer, and we need to give it the same treatment. We want to give it a background color of white. Okay, and we want to give it a margin top of 20 pixels, and we want to give it a border radius of what was it, 15 pixels? Okay, and that's fine. A couple things, it needs some padding because the text is right in the corners. Also, I want to minimize the importance of this text because it's secondary to the content, right? So I want to put in let's do text. Is it text or font? It's font, right? Font size maybe 12 pixels. That looks good. And then we'll also give it padding, about 10 pixels. Okay, that'll do. Noticing it's cutting off right at the bottom of the page, I'd like to give it a little bit of space, black space as well. So I'm going to give it a margin bottom of, let's say 20 pixels, why not? Okay. Yeah, it's nice. Okay, I'm trying to think if that does it. I want to say that about does it for this page. Nothing's coming to mind that I'm missing. So let's save all. Okay, and then what we can do is quickly change out the content by using this page that's been created as a template for the other pages, the sidekick and the arch enemy. So I think I'm going to stop this video and start a new recording for the others, just because this is getting long. All right, so please follow me to the next video.